I'm back at it again with Hazbin Hotel Redesigns, this time with two characters who to me are pretty equal in their abilities to steal the scene, yet add almost nothing to the narrative. I mean, other than Zestial giving us the barest bones into overlords, though surprise, surprise! I had to find out that he's actually retired from the wiki. Just love finding out information not in the show. Which, with that information, he's probably not coming back anytime soon, and hands down, I believe his only point of being in the show originally was to basically tell us Alistair's been gone, which Vox already said and like a few other characters, but whatever! And be on Carmilla's side about Velvet wanting to fight Heaven and getting Carmilla to admit she killed the angel. And seeing how season 2 is going to play out, yeah, I don't see this man coming back to quietly push the narrative, though Mimsy might surprise me as she is from Viv's Tumblr days and was paired with Alistair just as much as Rosie was, but seeing as she was in one episode and did nothing but info dump more lore about Alistair, which again, based on interviews for season 2, we're gonna get more info dumps on Alistair, which, off topic, but I really wish they would stop pushing Alistair so much. I get he's the mysterious overlord with a secret, but I swear all of season 1 it felt like every character was determined to mention him or involve him in some way, plus the constant repeating of the same info over and over and over again. And Mimsy, of course, just like Vaggie from the pilot, info dumped the same story about Alistair's arrival, which again, we already knew all of that before. Though Mimsy does mention she knew Alistair when he was alive, so how she didn't talk about that is beyond me. However, based on season 2, I kind of understand now, but still, it's still weird. Anyway, quick discussion about Zestial and Mimsy's design. So Zestial was never a part of Viv's Tumblr days or the Zoophobia cast, so there's literally nothing about him, and trust me, I looked. I know he was originally in the pilot, but it was 2 quick shots, and those 2 shots didn't tell us much other than he was close to Lucifer, though it would appear there were 2 versions of Zestial in the pilot. And honestly, I prefer the song design, mainly due to the shape language and the lesser amount of detail in some spots, but obviously this is what we got in the show, and man is it hard to figure out what exactly is going on with Zestial's design. I mean, yes, you can clearly see he's a spider type demon due to his eyes and bow tie, which, yay, another male character with a bow tie. But honestly, other than that, you really can't tell a whole lot about him, like his time period or styles, since he's completely shrouded in black. Plus 2, when he opens his cape and you look at his body, he's completely covered in black. There is no outfit. However, though, when you look at his wrist, you can see he has ruffled cuffs, so there's that, I guess. But again, that doesn't really help me narrow anything down or give that much impression to his design, including the top hat, as that's a style of hat that's pretty much in every year of fashion history after the 18th century. So again, that doesn't really help me narrow anything down. Nothing about Zestial really tells me anything about him. Obviously, he is a mysterious character, and that's perfectly fine to have a character shrouded in mystery in their design. It's just, there's some things that just don't make sense. And honestly, Zestial just looks like Valentino with a new skin design, and the theme of the skin is Jack Skellington. But I will say I do like the color palette, since it's a different palette than what we're used to seeing, and the red being used is minimal. Though I really do want to say that the hat is killing the overall vibe, mainly because it's the only thing with patches on it. There's no patches anywhere else on Zestial other than his hat, and it just makes the design honestly just feel super incomplete. To me, it seems too simplistic to be considered a dark and mysterious character design, you know what I mean? And then there's Mimsy, which she was an original design before the pilot, and honestly at that time I knew nothing about her other than based on her design. She was a flapper girl, knew Alistair, and they were kind of dating, but honestly her design hasn't changed all that much other than a new nose and updated dress, which okay, while I don't mind the design and find it pretty easy to tell the year of her life/death era, which is great since she and Alistair are from the same time period, even though you can't really tell with him. It's just the smaller details, aka the movie reel film on her dress. While we still know nothing about her life, however, However, though, she did mention she worked at a club and danced. So why is her dress hinting to film? And then there's like the teeth markings. I can't tell if they're meant to be teeth or if it's just a way to beef up the design since flapper dresses are very detailed. And also the fact that Viv said she's based on a chicken, to which where on this woman is she supposed to give chicken? And don't say the feathers in her hair, that's just part of a flapper girl's fit. It has nothing to do with chickens. I also, again, am highly disappointed with the lack of demonic elements or design. I've noticed a lot of the front focus female cast members are really lacking in that department and just look human with unique colors or the odd eye. But yeah, that's low-key my only issue with Mimsy's design. Again, while I think her design is fine on first glance and is able to tell you the time period in which she lived, she, again, just doesn't give chicken or demon. Honestly, she seems more ghost than demon, because oddly enough, just like Zestial, her design feels like the bare bones of what could have been a pretty unique design. So let's get into that. Okay, so I got rid of the whole chicken thing as I wanted to use an animal that had a stronger connection to greed due to Mimsy's maman tattoo on her back, so I went with a magpie instead due to their love of shiny things and their opportunistic nature and their intelligence, which can lead them into taking risks mainly for food, as they are known for stealing eggs, raiding chicken coops, and even taking food directly from people or pets. And that somewhat applies to Mimsy, as we see in the episode, Mimsy takes shelter with Alistair, knowing when shit hits the fan, he'll protect her from her own mistakes. I also decided to make her a harpy type demon instead of a full-blown chicken, as harpies are also considered a greedy type creature and often seen as a leech type person, which feels kind of right for Mimsy. Again, her latching onto Alistair for help, which like they are friends, but you can tell that Mimsy is only visiting him because of what's going to happen, and the fact that he's an overlord, so she's kind of taking advantage of that. So for her overall demonic body, I made her arms half arm, half wings, mainly so I didn't have to give her full-blown wings, but also so I could fuse her gloves and a feather boa, which were big back in the 1920s. Also, just like most harpies, her bottom half is bird-like while the top is human. So yeah, bird legs for Mimsy. But I did keep them thick because she is a thick girl, and I didn't want to lose that because, like, though she is slightly taller now due to the legs, but the human half of her is relatively the same. But I kind of gave her hair similar to Angel's, where it's more fused to her. Hair is fused, but it's fused in the way that there's like no actual hairline, which also kind of implies she's completely covered in feathers. I also did restyle her hair as I wanted it to look more like feathers, but also a flapper girl's hair is a bit more tight and wavy in its style, but I also wanted to sprinkle in some Marilyn Monroe so it's more naturally fluffy. I also made her eyelashes more feather-like, but still eyelashes, instead of how I did with Carmilla's eyelashes, and instead of the blushed cheeks, I went with an under blue eye bag look and gave her thicker lips and a more pointed style lipstick, aka silent film makeup, which is just pretty much minimal stage makeup, but for black and white movies. Like, the style of their makeup is very over the top and like really weird if you were to see it in color. Like, in color the colors don't make sense, but in a black and white monochromatic setting, the style of the makeuping and the colors that were used for the makeup give off this really haunted doll-like look, which is the aesthetic that the movies were going for. So that's what I did for Mimsy, as I like to think Mimsy wanted to look as glamorous as the women she saw on TV and replicated their makeup. Also, I made her skin a light golden yellow as a hint to her inner greed. Now for her outfit. So again, while I don't mind Mimsy's design, specifically her dress, I do think it's a little plain for a 1920s flapper girl's dress, as those dresses were just dripping in details. Especially during the Art Deco movement, a lot of the dresses were designed similar to that style, though it was technically just mostly a lot of points and curved angles. Also, yes, I did go overboard, but when you pick something from the most fashionable era, where over the top is literally their thing, then yeah, expect the same level of detail. I should also point out Lackadaisy has been able to do this, so yeah. So for her dress, I went with a simple plunged neckline with a beaded underboob design. The chest style is just simple curved lines with striped fabric, while the bottom half is what I like to call scale shaped. The main one on the front now holds her maman symbol, and the bottom part is now designed to look like piano keys, since she mentioned to be quite the dancer and worked at a club where she performed. So yeah, piano keys instead of film reels. Now, I did take some liberties with the slip dresses of the 1920s since Mimsy's in hell, and kinda like Alistair seems to stick to her era's style, but I like to think being in hell let her change up some stuff, so the bottom part now has a slit in the skirt, and instead of tassels, I went with feathers. I also made the back of her skirt longer to give the illusion of tail feathers, and gave her off the shoulder feather shoulders instead of the usual long sleeve silk that would have been used. As for her necklace, I just pretty much reworked her original necklace by making the black pearls white pearls and made the necklace longer. Now, don't get me wrong, I get why they made Mimsy's necklace short, but most flappers who wore jewelry wore big pieces. Think theater jewelry or very long pearl necklaces, so I just made her original version longer and white to fit with the aesthetic of the 1920s. Oh, and I reworked her beaded headband into a barrette with a jeweled hairpin with her own feathers pinned into it. Now, there's nothing completely wrong with the feathered headband style, but because of how thin the headband is around her head and like how many times a lot of people don't notice it, I decided to go with a barrette because it would be a little bit more noticeable. Also, fun fact, because we're about to move to color. But the colors of the Art Deco movement, or the more popular colors during that time, were green, blue, and gold tones. So the color palette I picked shows the time period is hinted in her even more. Though, funnily enough, I actually didn't do that on purpose, as I was just using the colors of a magpie, and figured keeping her hair blonde and making her skin gold, again for greed, was just a good way to go. So, happy accident, we'll say. Oh, I did also change her eye color to a more dark outer blue and a lighter inner blue with pupils, since it's kind of hard to tell what Mimsy's looking at half the time with her original eyes, which, don't get me wrong, I do still like her original design of her eyes. However, though, I really do miss like the hot pink eyelashes that she used to have. Like the new coloring style from Mimsy has always really bothered me. The original colors, you know, they're the same pinks, blondes, which is really funny when you think about it, because Mimsy is technically the first has-been character with that color palette, and it just got translated to everybody else. But Mimsy's original color palette, the way that she was colored and designed, melded really well, and it would spread out very well. However, this design, I don't know, it's a little too muted. The eyelashes look kind of funny now. Like, again, I wish her lips were the same color as her original eyelashes. Her lipstick just kind of vanishes with her skin tone, and it's just like, if they were thicker and the color were brighter, we wouldn't have this problem. But anyway, hands down, I love this design. There's a few things I wish I could rearrange and rework, but at the end of it, I think this tells you a lot more about Mimsy, and hopefully my redesign of Zestial does that too, because wow, did I have to make up so much stuff for him, because there is literally nothing about this man that I was able to find to help with the design. So let's just get into it. Okay, so Zestial turned into a reimagined version since there wasn't much for me to go off of for the design, and I wanted to do something more than just spider guys since we have angel dust. Anyway though, like I said before, I couldn't find any information on the character or any trivia that might help with his design other than he's a retired overlord and is pretty old, though how old is anyone's guess, but they reference his age based on how long he has been in hell, since he is considered to be one of the oldest sinners in hell. But, and to my surprise, yours as well when I say this, apparently Zestial isn't actually speaking Old English, but a more modernish theatrical version. So that could kind of imply that Zestial might not be as old as he says he is, or at the very least, this is one of those situations where something isn't super duper researched. But with that information in mind, I kind of nosedived into Shakespearean territory / timeline where Zestial could have been a possible actor. And since we don't know what he used to be the head of during his time as an overlord, which could also explain why he was closer to Lucifer's circle in the pilot, due to Lilith being in so many productions and shows. So with that in mind, I was able to get a decent time period to play off from, aka the mid 1500s to the early 1600s. And while the fashion during that time is super nice, I do believe the fit that Zestial is meant to be somewhat wearing is this, and as you can see, it's still slightly European, but with a lot more English undertones. But in the spirit of Halloween, I kind of side-eyed the Puritans since Shakespeare was alive during the start of it. So yeah, Zestial's lore for this now is he was a young runaway that became an actor in Shakespeare's play till he turned 17 and was too old to play the love interests anymore. It's not like he got ugly, he just kind of grew more into his features that made the illusion not an illusion anymore, and unfortunately decided to go back home and became a minister like his father wanted. He left with the other Puritans, but was bewitched by a succubus who he fell in love with, and she kind of did as well and made him a vampire. For those who haven't watched some of my other videos, I have a theory that succubus and vampires are part of the same subspecies, and that succubus made the human vampire. But anyway, Zestial began spinning webs of lies to his followers when men and women started going missing, and blamed innocent people for witchcraft. It wasn't until a vampire hunter came to town and figured out what was going on did Zestial's life get cut down. So for his redesign, as you can see, I made him half bat and half spider, half bat for his vampirism, and half spider due to the lies he told that got 3 innocent people killed. So for his body, I reworked his face by giving him a bat-like nose and a kinda mustache-like spider pincher thing, you know, to really sell the whole spider aspect of his design, since his original design, yeah, you can tell he's a spider. However, though, if you were to take away the bow tie, I don't think you would have been able to tell that he was a spider, but I did give him an extra set of eyes, though I'm not sure if I like it. I also did take some inspos from my version of Hotel Redemption Alistair, mainly in the overlapping black color part, as I wanted Zestial to still feel otherworldly, but I did end up getting rid of the face markings as it was just looking off to me, which honestly I blame my sketch for that. Like, what is it about sketches that makes something look so good and then when cleaned up it just looks crazy? Anyway, I also gave Zestial bat ears to really show the vampire side, as I didn't want to make him a full bat, but like a humanoid version since his body is fully covered. I also gave him spider legs on the outside of his back, which leads me to his outfit. So most Puritans' robes are pretty plain and simple colors as well, which makes sense for their lifestyle and beliefs, so I made his original cape wing thing into a short robe cape that are also still his wings, though unlike the show where Zestial's cape is sometimes a cape and sometimes fused to him, this version is full on bat wings folded up. Plus, he now no longer has arms and strictly relies on his magic to do things. And yes, I got rid of the coat buttons. They don't work and aren't technically accurate, so yeah, but I did replace it with a jeweled necklace as a symbol of his love and loyalty to the succubus who changed him. The inner design of his wings are the same as the originals, so still the spiderweb design, and instead of just a black bodysuit, he now wears a simple tunic and robes. I did make it more torn up. Over the shoulder thing looks kind of torn up even though it's shaped also like spiderwebs, but seeing as his OG hat was all stitched up, I figured I could fuse the two ideas. Oh, and speaking of his collar, I remade it into a ruff as that was what was popular back then. However, though, they weren't really that popular with Puritan fashion, but due to Zestial's love for Shakespeare and the arts, he kept it. But his wide, and technically would have been laced when he was alive, trimmed collar is more appropriate for the Puritan fashion, showing both sides of his life, though this version of it, I made it more spiderweb-like. Though I probably should have given him a clerical collar, but not many people would get that that's what the ministers would have worn. So I kind of reworked it into stoles since the original collar does have 2 pieces of fabric to indicate that. As for the designs on the stoles, I just made them up, but I also did kind of try to keep the stitching idea of his hat and kind of his mouth in the pilot, so yeah. And yeah, as much as I hate the top hat, I did still give him a hat, but one more appropriate of the 1500s. Just no buckle, because that's a whole other thing. Now, color. So Zestial weirdly has a decent color palette and has less colors than most characters, though he does have 6 colors on him, but I can't say too much as I did my best to get it down to 5, so I used his original black as the main color for the outfit, which works out great as it helps highlight the highlight colors. However, I did give him a new skin color, which is just this mossy gray-green color that I spread out to his spider legs and second layer of his robes, and used a lighter gray-green tone for the third layer and for his ruff and stoles, mainly to block out the overlapping a bit, and because I wanted a 3-point color combo. And now I'm sure you're all surprised, but yes, I did keep the red, or well, pink of his OG colors, but I made it more red than pink and spread it around. I know his original cape covered a lot, so you couldn't see that yes, the color was used as a highlight color and was spread around evenly, but again, the cape covered up that, so it being only seen on the top part of him threw me off constantly. So yeah, the red is now a part of his ears, his vampire fangs, and the tips of the spider legs, and his spider fangs as well, and of course the spider web designs. And since his cape is shorter, you can now see the inside design as well. Now the mint color. So while I love Zestial's OG color palette and think it's pretty unique, out of a lot of the characters, the neon yellow did confuse me, mainly due to the brightness, though I do think it could be due to the type of spider Zestial could be, but I was also kind of worried he and Serpentius looked too similar color-wise, so I went with mint, and hands down, I cannot tell if I like it, because I did really want to go with something more muted and dull, but it made his eyes less interesting. And like, don't get me wrong, I do like how cold this color makes him seem, but it also now leans a little too closely to Vox, which completely derails my original problem. Though if Zestial was once the overlord of theater and retired, giving Vox a chance to rise, then I guess them sharing colors isn't too bad. Like, it kinda implies a bit of a connection theme-wise. But yeah, I'm still 50-50 on this design. Again, I wouldn't call this a redesign, as I added a lot of my own ideas to beef up the design. So these are more of my own hangups and ideas having issues blending, but I think I got the message across on who this character is based on first glance. Anyway though, this is all I've got. Next video might be a reaction video of the 2 episodes of Has Been Hotel Season 2, since I'm still behind on my Twitch stuff, but really want to show y'all my VTuber model. So yeah, look forward to that. Any art related stuff is up in the air, since I want to redesign Haunted Hotel and more Homestuck, and you know, actually finish the world building video that I keep procrastinating on. But anyway, yeah, everything is everywhere, so yeah. Also, no new members to scream at today. Boo! But a special thank you to 4foot10 on the super thanks on my Homestuck redesign video. Y'all should watch that, by the way. I hear it's really good. Onto the wall of teeth you go. Also, thank you to the other members. You have my whole heart. Everyone else, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Follow me on my socials right here, and if possible, hit that join button or super to join the Board of Teeth. It really helps out the channel and me. I hope you all have a super fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!